Hey guys, for this stage what you're going to need is a couple of fusion reactors and a super bonder reactor. You don't really need any sensor reactors, and you're also going to need your laser reactor and a couple storage tanks. So first you're going to need your super bonder reactor, which is hooked up to the internal storage tank, and then its bottom half gets hooked up to the storage tank, which gets hooked up to the middle pipe on your laser reactor, and the top half gets hooked up to one of the super bonder reactors on their top half. So just double click on it, and you go start to the right, which is an NA, which goes up to grab, then right and down and right to a negative bond, and up to a fork out, and then right and down to a negative bond where you got your bonders, right to a fork out, down and left to a negative bond, down to a fork out, left and up to a negative bond, left to a fork out, then up and left to a drop where you got another two bonders, left to a sink, and then another sink, and then up to NA, and it goes back around. For the blue line, you got your start, which goes off to the bottom, and then you got a sink, and then you go right to a positive bond, right to a grab, down to a drop, left to a flip flop, which is pointing downwards, up to your sink, and then right to a sink, and then back around. For your flip flop, you go down to a sink, right to a sink, right to a positive bond, a grab, a clockwise rotation, two positive bonds, up to a clockwise rotation, right to a flip flop pointing upwards, down to a drop, up for your flip flop to a negative bond, to out, which is the circle out, and left back into start. Then you go to your top super bonder reactor, and that's hooked up to the internal storage tank at the top, which goes to the top half, and then the top pipe from that goes down and around to a storage tank at that, at like the bottom area, and then the pipe from that storage tank goes up all the way around to your fusion reactor at the top. The bottom pipe of this goes to the top half of a fusion reactor. So just double click on it to go inside. Then you do the red line, which goes left to an NA, then left to a sink, left to a grab, down and right to a sink, right to a negative bond, right to a negative bond, then another negative bond. You got your bonders here, right to a fork out, down to a clockwise rotation, left and up for your negative bond to a fork out, left and down to another fork out, right to sink, then drop. Then you got bonders, right to a negative bond, circle it out, sink, negative bond, and then back into start. For your blue line, you go right to a sink, then you go drop, negative bond, up to a negative bond, circle it out, sink, fork out, left to an A, left to a sink, left to a grab, down and right to a sink, right to a fork out, then you go negative bond, another negative bond, a fork out, down to a clockwise rotation, left and up to a negative bond, then you fork out, left and down for your negative bond to a fork out and back into start. For your top fusion reactor, it just gets hooked up to pipe number 1 and 2 on your missile launcher, and it's also got a pipe coming from the back of the super bonder reactor, which, wait, no, actually no, it comes from the top of this fusion reactor all the way around to the storage tank, which goes to this storage tank, which goes to the bottom of this fusion reactor. So just double click on it, and you got the red line, which goes left to NA, then up to grab, and you got two bonders, up and right to NA, down to positive bond, right to drop, down to fork out, left to back into start. For the blue line, it goes up to NB, right to grab, right to drop, down to circle it out, and then you got two bonders there as well. For your middle fusion reactor, you got the top half is coming from your super bonder reactor, using the top off to the top storage tank, and the bottom goes down to pipe number 4 on your laser reactor. So just double click it, and you go red off to the left for an NA, then down to grab, right to drop, down to fork out, down to NA, left to fuse, left to sink, left and up to grab, where you got your fusion laser target, right to drop, right and up and back into start. For your blue line, you go up and you go a whole lot of sinks, then right to another 2 sinks, right and down to grab, down and right to drop, down to circle it out, and down and left back into start. For your bottom super bonder reactor, the top half on the where it's receiving it comes from your first super bonder reactor, and then you just hook it up so the bottom pipe goes into number 6. So just double click it, and you go red off to the left for an NA, down to a grab, and you got two bonders, down and right to NA, up to positive bond, right to sink, right and down and right to drop, up to circle out, left back into start. For the blue line, you go left to sink, left to NA, down to grab, down and right to NA, up to positive bond, right and down and right to drop, up to circle out and back into start. Now for your laser reactor, just double click on it, and then you start off with the red line, which is going off to the left for an NA, up to a sink, right to a grab, right to a drop, down to a grab, left and down and right to a grab drop, right to negative bond, left to negative bond, up to a sink, up to a drop where you got bonders, right to a sink, up to a flip-flop which is facing right, left to a grab and then back for your flip-flop, down and left to drop, you got more bonders, left to sink, left and up to your branch which is facing downwards, and this branch has a sigma symbol which is so it's going down and then it goes back up, and then you got an A and it goes back around. For the blue line you got going left to NB, then up to sink, up to grab, drop, negative bond, left and down to grab, left to positive bond, left and down to clockwise rotation, and then another clockwise rotation, then left and down to sink, down and right to grab, then drop, then positive bond, you got bonders here, down and left to positive bond, left to a flip-flop which is facing left and you got your sensor, then up to grab, up to sink, right to negative bond, right and up to grab, and then back around. For your flip-flop it goes left to grab, down and right to drop, right to positive bond, right and up to your sigma branch which is facing downwards, and then back up to NB and around the loop again. So I'll show you how this one works. Just like that, then this top one. Then this very top one. Just like that. Then for the middle one. Just like that. Then for the bottom super bonder reactor. It's just like that. For your laser reactor. Pretty much just as that.